Yo, what's going on YouTube? And in today's video, we'll be going over the most recent, most uniformed build that I've created thus far. And as you can see, it's all laid bare before you. If you've seen all my previous videos, I'm not going to go over too much the changes. What I would like to discuss in this video is just like openers, curves, and things such as. The major changes to this list that you've seen is that I went ahead and I went to 4 of the Rocket Luffy, 2 of the Boost Luffy, and 4 Flampe. Also, I went up to 4 Pudding. Pudding is so important in this deck, and it is so important for you to see it because it is what helps you continue to keep up your aggression. If you don't have a Pudding, then your aggression isn't as aggressive because your opponent will have the cards in their hand and eventually the blockers to be able to defend themselves. So you need Pudding to be able to reduce your opponent's hand size so that you can continue with hard aggression. Like I say, that's you just must run this at 4. I was undervaluing the Flampe. Once I had it at 4 in the deck and I was seeing it more consistently, it was helping me get to the 2 life range so I can start being aggressive with leader and with ace. One of the most disheartening things in this deck is when you have to play an ace at 3 life because you're just kind of sort of stuck in that situation. Having that Flampe really helps with that. And like I say, being able to draw 2 cards, essentially, and being able to play a heavy body is very powerful for the turn. Especially since, like you're mitigating your loss on resources really well. But to speak about like opening hands, curves, and things like that, I like to go over first. You want to go second in this deck. You just generally want that so that you can possibly use your leader skill on your first turn swinging. And not even your leader skill, but you can possibly use a Hiyori and a Baby Ace on your first turn to go for a double 7K swing to your opponent, assuming that your opponent swung at you and you took the life. Um, so ideally, in your opening hands going second, you want to see one of your baby aces, a Hiyori, possibly a Searcher, and like any of your blockers. And like ideally a Pudding. Like a Pudding in opening hand is okay. So there's 2 things that you really want to see in your opening hand: a Pudding and babies. If you see a Pudding in your opening hand, I highly recommend keeping that. Like, dependent on the rest of the hand, I really heavily recommend you keep a Pudding in your hand because you're going to go aggressive at your opponent. Like, even if you don't have a brother setup, you can just go high swings at your opponent with leader until you have a brother setup. And then you can do brother setup, go another high swing with lead, and then play the Pudding the following turn, really crippling your opponent, or like however it is you would need to set it up. Like, there's just so many different ways. But as I said before, opening hands going second, like I said, you just generally want to see either one of the brothers, a blocker, a Pudding, and like I say, 2K wouldn't hurt. But the ideal curve for that, like I say, is if you're not playing anything that has board removal, you can just go ahead and hard play one of your brothers. Just so the next turn, if you do have, like I say, leader skill, and like if you do have both the brothers in your hand and you do have leader skill, and you can go ahead and just play Hiyori or swap out something for something, or if you did have some sort of setup, like it's more. That's the idea when you have 2 brothers and you're playing against something that doesn't have board removal, that you do that. But if you're playing against something that has board removal, I do not recommend summoning any of your baby brothers on your first turn, or yeah, on your first turn, because there's high probability they'll be removed. And if you're blind leader ability and you don't hit the corresponding brother, then you're just hurt. But like I said, if they don't have board removal, then you're free to just play your baby's turn 1. By your turn 2, like I said, if you do have the Hiyori Ace combo, you just want to play that. Honestly, that's just the best combo that you have. If you do have a brother setup, like if you open up with both the brothers, you're also just free to just use leader ability attached to, and just if you hit either one of the brothers, you can then play it And I mean, it really doesn't matter if it's a if like necessarily what it is. You just want that 7K swing and the body on board. If it's this Luffy, that's great. If it's this Luffy, like I say, that's great. Ideally, the best card to see is going to be the Ace though, because it's going to allow you to draw and set up your top end. And if, like I say, if you have another brother and you have a corresponding brother, or you have that in your hand, or you have like I said, you have like the corresponding brothers in hand, you can go ahead and set it up for your next turn so that you'll have that 7K swing for next turn, and like so on and so forth. Um, Generally speaking, on 5 Dawn, if you don't have a way to use leader skill and get out a baby, then just play one of your blockers if you have it in hand. If you're on 5 Dawn, this like I say, is you're just going first. But if you do have the ability to play a baby brother, then I do recommend you just attach 2 to lead, use leader ability, play out a brother, and just go from there. Just like I say, to keep to keep tempo in your favor, and like I say, just to keep your opponent um with high hand size, so that like I say, you can eventually put it in, because I promise you, like putting is what wins you the game. Like you taking those cards from your opponent and then continuously applying pressure, especially if your opponent wasn't able to get rid of your ace the turn before, or if you're able to apply heavy game pressure early, then the pudding is just it's just the play. It just is. It's what like pushes the deck into meta competitive. Like I say, ideally on 3 Don, like I say, if you don't have any setup whatsoever, but you have brothers in your hand, bigs and smalls corresponding, you just want to go ahead and play the blocker. Even if you don't have bigs and small corresponding, I don't want to say that you want to play the blocker, because you really just want to save the blocker for setup. But like if you need to cycle cards, or you just need to see something else, you just play the blocker down, just to like say kind of sort of switch up your top end. And like I say, if you don't have anything, just either set those cards to the bottom so that you can possibly see something new, or if you just need a piece, like one of your searcher cards, you can grab one of those to your hand, and then like I say, recycle the rest to the bottom, or keep them on top if you need them on top. For the most part, most of the time I'll leave them on top, because it's mostly cards that I want to use, whether it be my 2Ks or whatever the case may be. I'll leave those on top. Like if it means that I don't have a leader ability for the turn, then of course I won't leave it on top. I'll set them to the bottom just to increase the chances of me getting my leader ability. But like I said, also if you just want a 2K to your hand, there's nothing wrong with setting those to the top. At least getting one 2K and then using leader ability to go 5 deep. So like I say, you minimum will still have the one 2K. Like I say, if you do see cards like that in your hand. When you are using these characters, the blockers, when you do summon these, you want to mostly cycle out all of your non-counter. You want to prioritize cycling out all of your non-counter in your hand. So that means if you have the aces, the events in your hand, which is the only non-counter in the deck. So you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 non-counter cards in the deck, which is really good, especially since you're consistently a 7K lead. But um, you like I said, you mostly want to use this to cycle out counter if you don't have a setup for the brothers. If you do have a setup for the brothers, what you want to do is very obviously you want to place whatever it is you want to see as the first card, and the card that you're going to draw as the card on top of that. So what I mean is, like, let's just say that this is my hand here, and let's say I have this is my hand. I summon this and I draw 2. Okay, as I said before, I want to prioritize getting the non-counter out of my hand, and then getting whatever it is I was going to draw regardlessly, and keep that. Seeing as this event may come in handy, I want to keep this event. And seeing as if I don't have a baby brother and I'm hoping to look for a baby brother, I'm going to put this to the top, or whatever like I said, the case may be. So in this instance, I would put this like this, so that when I set it down, the ace is not going to be the next card I draw for turn, but instead the Brother's Bond is going to be the card I draw for turn. Now, there are some slight sequencing things that you need to keep in mind when you are using this deck. Like, for instance, if you do play out a small blocker and you can go into a bigger blocker, make sure that before you go into your bigger blocker, you keep in mind you want to use like your one drop searcher events if you have one down. Like you'll often be in situations where you have one Don left over. As I go on and explain more to you, I'll explain like the 10 Don curve for you here in a moment. But going back to uh the blockers. um let's say you always, like say, if you have this and you use this to go into the ace, make sure you're playing your one drop searcher events or your one drop cards that you want to play first. Or like I say, even if you're at 3 life and you're going into this ace, make sure that you, if your plan is to use the ace and you have 3 life, make sure you play your flampe before you use your baby ace's ability, and make sure you use your garp before you summon this ace out of life. Because if you summon this ace out of life and you top deck 2 cards, then you're just gonna get rid of those cards with Garp. So you might as well go Garp first, search, and then use his skill to look at the top 2, rearrange. Like I say, the niche sequencing order of things like that is something that you need to keep in mind. It's one of the curves that's going to catch you off guard when you're playing the deck, because you'll be so eager to just go into ace that you won't think that, oh, I should have played that first to search that to go and then get this and use my Dawn more effectively. Um, like you really start to take off at 5 to 7 Dawn, because at 5 to 7 Dawn you have uh the ability to use leader's ability as long as you have this blocker. At 9 Dawn, you'll have the ability to use leader's ability as long as you have either one of these blockers. But at 7 Dawn turn, um, the ideal play for you to do would be to go into this blocker for 3. And if you have, like I say, corresponding brothers in your hand, like the aces, then what you want to do is go into this blocker, draw your 2, set. You'll have to give up a card for this particular play. So, like I say, if you, whatever you got in your hand, if you got multiple aces, just give up one of the aces. If you got counter, you don't really want to give up counter for real. You want to give up non-counter, but you also want to make sure that you're holding to cards that you need to see. Um, like I said, if this was a scenario, I'd probably just give up one of my Luffy's if I had it in the hand and set that to top. Now I have 4 Dawn left over. I can attach 2 to lead, use leader ability, go ahead and set whatever it is I need to set on top, assuming that I have the corresponding brother, and then go ahead and summon the brother. Like I said, if you have the rush ace, then you have a 7-9 swing at your opponent. If you have a Luffy, then you can just simply pop draw 1 9 at your opponent. When you also establish a blocker, so your life is safe. If you have this Luffy, then you just summon it for a higher swing later on. Like I said, this is just like a consistency piece mostly. There are matchups where him being able to swing, mostly like Nami, he's really good, and into green, he's really good. If you're able to move their blockers off of the board, being able to have a AK base swinger to go against Kid is extremely useful, especially since like you don't inherently have a way to remove that card off of the board. You do have a way to remove their blockers off a board, but you don't have an actual way to remove Kid. But that's fine because you're going for being so aggressive to your opponent to where they won't have much of an option to play that card. And like I said, when you're playing against green, you have to play you have to play in sequencing correctly, and you just have to sacrifice some of your 9K swings for 7K swings so that you can get the value out of your bodies that you're going to play. Because if you try and play your bodies just for the 9K swing, which you'll get the life, but like I said, if you don't have the pudding, then it's not worth it. You're just going to lose the card. They're probably not. If it's a blocker, they're going to try and swing into it. If it's the ace, they might try and swing into it, but they won't try and swing into it heavy. They'll give it a swing, but not, like I say, their whole turn worth of swings. If they can try and swing it, but if this is rested, they'll definitely try and swing it. This is why I also recommend, like I say, if you're a 7K lead and you have this blocker on the field and you're not in any danger of dying, then there is nothing wrong with swinging with this on your turn for 7 and swinging with this, especially if you establish this. Going 6, 7, 9 is extremely powerful. Like I say, you'll deplete a lot of cards out of your opponent's hand if you haven't played the pudding already. And like I say, doing that, like I say, just put your opponent in this really tight squeeze where they have to focus your board. Like, sure, they can focus your life, but you're still going to have to deal with high swings on the next turn. And having, and even in this would be one card, two cards, and three cards if you wanted to counter out. If they wanted to counter out, then they would have probably, like, if they had a blocker, it would have been 2K for this. Counter out for this if they have the ability to block. um, or it'd be 2K for this, take life and block. You know what I mean? Ideally, if they gave up three cards for these two swings and a blocker, that's fine. Like I said, if they have a massive hand size, it is irritating. Like I said, that's why you need the pudding so that your opponent doesn't feel so comfortable in getting rid of cards out of their hand and still feeling like they can play the game. You want to make sure that you're applying pressure to your opponent. You just want to like swing at them. Like ideally, like that's just what you're doing. You're just going straight to face, straight to face, straight to face, straight to face, straight to face. Their bodies can't. Their bodies, they have to invest too much to swing at your leader, so they're not going to use their characters to swing at you. So you don't have to worry about swinging at their characters if you know you can keep your leader consistently at 7. It's only going to be a problem, like I said, if you don't see pudding. If you don't see a pudding, then you might have to want to start dealing with creatures on board. But honestly, just keep up the pressure to life if you can. Like I said, if you can be a 7K leader and have two blockers or one blocker and an ace just going 7-7-9-7-7 at your opponent every turn, to the point where they're at 2 life, to where this becomes live and this becomes live. Like a 4 life leader is gonna be wrecked by this really really quick. This is your in game card, because as I was explaining to you earlier. On Tendon, one of the best moves that you have in this deck for sure is going to be playing out this blocker, to play this blocker to defend yourself, have a high swing, cycle a bunch of cards out of your hand, and like I say, be able to say still have, like I say, a high swing. The only reason why I want to play like the Makino in here is because there are times where I'll have babies in life, and if I know those babies are in life, then I'll just play the baby and just hard play whatever in life. That's the only reason why I want to actually take out one Flampe to go back to the one Makino, just for the knowledge of life. Having that knowledge of life, it can also be extremely helpful, like extremely helpful. So like I say, I might do a 2-2 split just to see how that works out. Like just like I say, having that knowledge of life, being able to go a little bit more aggressively if I see like I have like aces in my life that I can go ahead and use. Like I said, that could be extremely helpful. But like I said, other things like I say that you can do on the uh Tendon turn is that, like I say, if you have, like I say, your corresponding brother setup, then for 5 you play your ace, then you'll draw 2. You'll set the big of whatever baby you have to the top of your deck. You'll attach 2 to lead. You'll use leader ability to summon whatever big is corresponding. You'll summon baby, boost leader, and you'll have 1 Don up. If you're in late game, then that is the perfect curve for you to have one blocker, one potential swinger pop or whatever it is that you summoned, a 7K base leader, plus the ability to become an 8K base leader on your opponent's turn with the ability to rest one of their cost 4 lore. That is like that's your perfect Tendon turn. Right there is, like I said, just making that play happen. If you play this, like I said, you play it into a rush ace, then you just did a really great turn for your Tendon turn by being able to swing aggressively with the rush ace, the leader, play a blocker, and have the ability to defend yourself pretty heavily, or remove your opponent's blockers should they play them. Uh, going second, like I said, is ideal. Going first, it isn't bad, because like I say, you do have going first curve, as you can see. It isn't ideal, but if you see this on turn 3, then by your 5 Don turn, you'll be able to start using leader ability. For the most part, it can say, like I said before, either way it goes, you'll have to wait till 5 Don turn to use leader ability. There's, like I said, that's just the downside of going first. But like I said, if you can create a setup with the blocker beforehand, then you're just winning. You're just in a good position because, like I say, being able to set up this into setting up this just sets up the rest of the deck, which is why, like I say, this is mostly ideally the first card that you want to see off of your leader ability, and then you can just snowball from there. Like I say, you don't really you want these in your hand because they're just not only are they just great pressure, but they're also good board removers if you just need to remove something from board. That's why I said like this deck is like good into Dofi because being able to go seven into a lot of their fives means that they have to sacrifice more than just like one card per swing, and then having a like 9K leader behind that means that they're more than likely going to give up the body. When you combine that, like I say, with your Raging Tigers and your Luffy's, then you have a really good board control deck here. Um, if you had more of an ability to make sure that you saw these, it would be insane. Like the leader in and of itself provides consistency to the deck. Like I say, it is big brain. You got to pilot it correctly. But if you're able to, um, you'll cycle through the deck really fast. Like I think one of the next level things that I'm going to be trying to learn with this deck is to calculate what I've cycled. Because if you think about it, after three cycles, you've went through 15 cards. If you haven't played any searchers, or let's just say that you played two searchers, then that's 25 cards that you went through, and you start with essentially a 40 card deck. So you went through 25 of your 45. You don't know what 15 are, but you arranged 25. And if you can remember the order of that arrangement of that 25, that will also help you in some of the games where you're just trying to thug it out. You know what I mean? And like I said, those like that comes with learning the deck, and that comes with playing the deck like repetitively over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like you're probably gonna get your ass kicked playing this deck for the first few times because it's so difficult, like I say, to get those niche nuanced situations correctly and to like figure out what you want to do. But um yeah, that's a little bit of a like I'm thinking that's a little bit of a better explanation as to like how to run the deck. Ideally, what you want to see when you're opening up your hands. This is like this version right here is pretty consistent. I'm very happy with this version. I think that this is the version. I don't want to solidify. I know I said that in the last video with the white beard. Just don't even worry. Don't we'll forget about that. All right. This one though, this one, I really like this build. Like I said, the four Luffy's feels really good. When you hit them out of life, it feels really good. When you play them and you're able to draw a card, that feels really good. Um, it's like I said, it's a very consistent deck too. That's also something that I really like about this deck. Once you learn how to play it, it is a very consistent deck. You will find that you are pulling off what you want to pull off pretty much every turn. Like I say, if you're a turn two player and you have the setup from turn two on, you just be a 7K leader. You just be a 7K leader. You just be a 7K leader. Especially if you have this for setup, then you're just a 7K leader the whole way. And like I say, the only thing that you need at that point is a pudding. Like I say, through the first few turns, like I say, if you don't have a brother set up or you don't have a blocker set up, then my recommendation to you, like I say, if you're going first, just swing 8 life. Like I say, if you don't have the Hiyori swing set up, swing 8 life. 5 Dawn turn, if you don't, like I say, have both the brothers or some sort of setup, which again, it would be impossible to make some sort of setup at 5 Dawn turn because there's nothing that you can play to do that without thank you for loving me. Like if you have thank you for loving me, even still, it's like a gamble because you still need two of these in your hand, or yeah, both of these in your hand. But like that's the niche situation that thank you for loving me can provide you with. It allows you to be able to use your leader skill and the babies on 5 Dawn turn. But like I said, if you don't open up with two babies, then even on 5 Dawn turn, then what you want to do is like search if at all possible or play a blocker. Like those are really what you want to do. It's just search or play a blocker. Uh, if you have the Flampe combo, then I highly recommend you just go 9 in life with lead, use leader ability. If you, like I say, if you don't have a brother, then but you hit one out of life, just go ahead and get the plus. You know what I mean, and put yourself in range. Just see and just see more cards as well. Um, um, After that, like I say, on your 7 down turn, like I said, that's when you really start to become able to use your leader skill. Like I say, if you are on 5 down turn and you have some sort of setup, even if you don't have some sort of setup, it's better for you to just hard play this than to try and, if you, like I say, if you have both brothers, then use leader ability. If you have one brother, you can gamble, but why gamble when you can go with a guarantee? You know what I mean? So like, you always want to play this, especially if you have, like I say, the corresponding brothers in your hand. On 5 down, you just want to play this card out just so you can have the setup for next turn, so that you can just start being a 7K leader after your 5 down turn. At that point, you're usually at 2 life anyway, which is the ideal amount of life you want to be at, so that your aces and Luffy's are live. So you don't mind going down to 2 life at all. You just have to defend those first 2 swings. Like, you really don't even have to defend those first 2 swings. Like I say, if you have a setup, then once you take that first swing, and on 3 down turn, if you take a swing and you, like I say, if you have a blocker, or if you take a swing and counter out, whatever the case may be, then you'll be at 2 life. And again, that's ideal for making the entire deck live. Um, Um, like I said, going into 7 dawn turn, like I said, you should have brothers by this point, because, like I said, the deck is so consistent with being able to find the little pieces that you want to see. Because, like I said, you have the cycling ability of your blockers, you have the searching with the 2 garps, you have the drawing with the flampe, you have the drawing with this Luffy, you have the drawing with this Luffy. You have the search with leader ability. So like I say, seeing, so running through your cards, like I say, the most hurtful thing that you'll probably see if you just see like a lot of brothers in a search, a baby brothers in a search, that does suck. Um, and that can happen, but you can play through that. But like I said, it is unfortunate when that happens. Like I say, the brother that you want the most is going to be Ace. I don't know. I don't think I've ever. I mean, I have explained that, but like, I'm gonna explain it again to you guys. But like, you want to see Ace, baby Ace, out of all of your cards. Out of all the cards you play, this is the card that you want to see the absolute most. If you see a Luffy, that's fine. Like, getting a Luffy out on board is fine, but these are the bread and butter of the deck. These are really what make the deck function so insanely well. So like, you need to see your baby aces so that you can play your big aces, so he can set you up for your rush aces. Like I said, you can if you can go into a Luffy, you're going into a Luffy, but you're just going into a Luffy for a high swing the following turn. Like I say, the following turn, you're probably using leader ability. If you are, like I say, if you are in a situation where you have this Luffy on field and you want to go into your rush ace, it's really good setup to go ahead and just, like, if you are at 3 life, trash that life so that you'll be at 2. Use leader skill, place him on top, then play this so that you got that 7K swing, Ace K swing, 9K swing. Sequence of swinging is important too. You always want to go from lowest to highest. You never want to start with your highest swing. When swinging at somebody, you'll alleviate a lot of pressure off your opponent when you do that. So you always want to go, like I said, from lowest to highest. So you'll swing, like I said, with your 7. If you, like I did the move I just told you, you swing with your 8. And keep in mind, if you did do this, you drew a card also. So you, like I said, you usually have very healthy hand size also as well. Like I say, it's very often that you're with 6+ cards in the hand, because you're only playing like a baby a turn, or maybe a blocker, and then like you're getting a free card, which is essentially setting you up for next turn. And because your opponent isn't swinging at you so heavily, you're not countering out so heavily, so you're not losing a lot of cards out of your hand. Um, Hard playing this Luffy. If you got to, you got to. Like, it's your best move for the turn. Play it. Like I say, if hard playing, this is your best move for the turn. Play it. Like I said, you want to save your aces for 2 points at the game. Like, you can play them midway into the game, like, just for continuous pressure. But they're really good at the beginning and at the end of the game to help as your closers. Like I said, if you're not playing against something that has heavy removal, or just can stun these for a few turns, then these are just gonna cause your opponent problems. Especially, you can keep them alive and you're playing behind a blocker. Um, like I say, uh, that's, like I say, just for the most part, the most of it, the gist of the deck. You just have to be very mindful of how you're sequencing, how you're top decking, how you're spending your Don, what you're gonna do for the turn you're on and the following turn. cards that you'll give up and don't want to give up, because you have to keep in mind what decks that you're playing as well and what cards you're going to need for that deck. So, like, for instance, if you're playing against a nail, you don't want to top deck your pudding if you know you're finna go into a leader search. You're going to lose your pudding. You want to make sure also, like I said, what you're top decking on the turns that you're not setting up for the next turn. You're getting rid of one of the cards you're going to top deck. So just be mindful of that in the opponent that you're playing. So like I say, if you're playing against an Anil, you don't want to top deck and get rid of your puddings out of your hand. You want to keep those. Cards like your Blade Slice, you can go ahead and bottom those, because there won't be a whole bunch of fours that you'll need to rest in terms of like blockers. Like, they don't know they play the 2 cost blocker, and like I said, this is going to be perfect for that. Um, you do need these for like their Namis and Gadatsus, but like uh you don't mind, like I say, if you have set up, then like I say, like my first thing is to, I don't prioritize bottom decking a brother if I know I have a setup, so I'll probably bottom deck like a Garp. I'll try not to bottom deck my searchers, but like if I have to, they're probably like the first thing to go. Actually, like they're the second thing to go. Like I'll bottom Luffy's before I bottom searcher cards, because I can always use my searchers to look for more pieces, and my Luffy is just going to either be played as counter and not very oftenly played as a body. There's not very often that you'll play this card as a body. Like I said, it's match dependent on when you play him. Like I said, that's why I went up to 4 him, 2 him, because he's just so much more useful than this. Uh, but yeah, I've been rambling for a hot second now. Like, I've been going on, but that's the deck. I know I've been telling y'all for a hot minute. We're gonna have Sims. We're gonna have Sims. We are gonna have Sims. I am going to get there eventually. Don't you guys worry. We are gonna get there. But once I figure out why it is I can't get video footage at locals, why like my camera just literally decides to stop working at locals every time. I can, like I say, start giving you guys video footage, gameplay errors that I've realized that I've made. Um, Errors I can hope help you guys avoid making. I hope this video did cover enough about the deck so that you have enough of a base understanding of it so that you can start playing it. But this version right here, like I said, this is the most consistent version and the most aggressive version that I could come up with. Um, I did test play this the other night against Lucci, and I did pretty well. I was actually able to 2-0 him, because with the puddings, like I said, that's why I said it just made such an insane difference in the game, because I was able to pudding more often, and being able to pudding after heavy swings to his life with a 7-9 7-9. It just puts you in the driver's seat. That, and having the blade slice in the end game to be able to rest his Rebecca blocker, also like put you in the driver's seat in the end game, because like a lot of people will hide behind a blocker or two, and like I said, blade slice is just like the perfect like in game scenario card for like those small blockers. And so is Luffy. I don't like to play him for 5 Don in the end turn if there's a blocker that I don't like. If you can math your opponent out, math your opponent out. But like, if you can do it, and you think the only way you can do it is by playing the Luffy, play the Luffy. I've made the mistake a lot of times in my end game by trying to do too much fancy shit, um, instead of just putting a bunch of Don on what's on board and swinging. So just keep that in mind. This is a very aggro deck. It's not aggro in the sense of like Law or Zoro, where they swarm the field and just swing with a bunch of bodies. It's aggro in the sense that it's just swinging high at your opponent and causing your opponent to have to give up a lot of cards in hand or give up a lot of life. Generally speaking, your opponent's going to give up a lot of life, because two for this is a lot, and 3 for this is a lot. Having to give up 2 is one thing, and then taking life is another. But like I say, but most people don't want to go, oh, I want to give up 2 cards and then take a life and draw one. Like, yeah, you essentially balance out when you do that, but it's still not pleasant, especially when you know you have to deal with that swing again the following turn. Um, that's why I say the pudding is just very very crucial. I'm gonna keep emphasizing how like this card wins you the game because, like I say, once you've gone high at your opponent, this is the number one thing you want to see to go right back down to five, 7K swing immediately. If they don't have blockers, then they're just in her position. It's really really her position. I do want to low key play the blue Jozu in her just to like bounce searchers and 2Ks back to the hand and even putting back to the hand for some reason if I need to use it. Or even like I say, you can even play Jozu to bounce one of these back to your hand, and then in that same turn, attach two to lead. Use leader skill. If you have the corresponding baby, replay the same, like say rush ace. If you want to do something like that, or even a blocker, or whatever the case may be, like just bounce it back to replay it with a lead ability or some sort of like setup. Like I say, if you have it, well, you'd have to have some sort of setup for that because, like what I just said, actually did not make any sense. Forget that last part. That was made no sense. I'm gonna end the video here. I'm starting to make no kind of sense. I hope you guys enjoyed though. But as always,